Hello? Hello? Anybody there? Everybody's still getting signed on. Okay. I can't hear you. Can you hear me, Kamishi? I can't hear you at all. Okay. Okay, so can you see my screen now? Well, let me share it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So.
Yep, I see it.
Everybody that's not here tonight, we're supposed to have a guest speaker, Angelina, coming on to talk about subnetting and CIDR notation and her experience in corporate America. And any advice and questions you guys may have, you may want to ask if she comes on. It will be a shorter class, but Kamisha and I were talking about interviewing and having a consistent resume. I think everybody should send me. I probably got y'all's resumes, but send it to me again. Send your resumes in, and then what we can have is I can have Bill see if he can have his board members, which are enterprise level directors in Fortune 500 companies, look over your resume, and then they'll send it back and say, well, you need to do this, that, and the third. One thing that I did the other day is, I had been running like a little podcast and stuff, and Pro Tools is an audio engineering program that I was working with. The problem was it kept acting a fool. I didn't know what was wrong with it. And so when I went into the task manager here and I wanted to check my performance, I noticed the C drive was already on 99%. So I said, okay, either I downloaded something bogus or my drive is going out. Well, this is a 1 terabyte drive that I just got. I haven't had this computer for no more than 3 years, if that. So I had a solid state drive. Now, what a solid state drive is, everybody probably knows what that is, but that's basically a drive with no moving parts. It goes by IOPS as opposed to rotation per minute, which is RPMs. So if you notice nowadays, if you go and look on a newegg.com, eBay, Micro Center, all these places, it's getting cheaper for these solid states. They're not magnetic. They don't have any moving parts. It's just like your USB jump drive. So here's the analysis that I want to run through real quick. And you guys might know that it'll be running a little faster for me. As you know, Windows 10 often likes to run automatic updates, and then it asks you, do you want to reboot and restart and all of that? Well, when you have a solid state, it barely takes any time. Let's say we had a jam on this phone right now, and my OS gets crashed. If I reboot it, it'll take about 25 seconds. So your immediate boot time is incredible. Installing Windows 10 took me like 15 to 20 minutes as opposed to 40. My operating system, which is Windows 10, moves at a faster pace. Apps run faster. I have less worry about shock or magnetic damage because there's no moving parts. I believe I got better power consumption on both the drive and the laptop because, as you know, anything moving, when you start looking at the physics and the dynamic of what they call perpetual motion, if you have something moving, that means it requires energy. Well, energy in this case would be electricity. So if there's less electricity, I'll probably have better power consumption. Okay? So that means I get faster OS operating system updates, faster software installation. Now here's the drawback. I went from a terabyte to only about 100 gigabytes. So a terabyte, as you know, is about 1,000 gigabytes roughly. So this isn't really that much space. And most solid-state drives, they're expensive when you start getting up into space. But they're getting cheaper now. So, you get less space, but you're getting faster quality. A lot of people is probably using video editing. Sometimes they might want a solid-state just because they want something fast. The issue is recovery costs. And this is the reason why I always tell people to use Google Drive in the cloud as a storage consideration because, let's say something does happen to my solid-state hard drive. Well, we're not talking about just hooking up cords. Imagine trying to get some data out of your USB jump drive. I mean, you're going to have to send it to a disaster recovery place. It's very, very expensive. Okay, so just showing you this real quick, and then we'll move on to the next thing. But an SSD drive, a 960 gig is $100, and then Samsung's pretty good, but you get a 2 terabyte for $220. So it's a little pricey, but 2 years ago this might have been like $400-500. But this is a good one here. And if I ever want to upgrade, I might just do this, But that's my analysis of a solid-state upgrade. I've had 2 solid-state drives in my possession for about 6 months now, and I never used them. So I gave one to my brother, and he installed it with Server 2012 on a desktop that I had. So that's something to consider. Going into Slack, I had a couple different roles that I've been posting. Brother Floyd was asking a question in terms of, a computer must connect to some kind of router to get to the internet or internet service source. And his original question basically, I believe, was that, do you have to have a router for the internet service provider? Well, you have to have some type of source to provide internet access. And he was asking questions about the firewall. Now, the firewall, as I said before, is basically the drawbridge, right? So I put up a couple of different pictures on this drawbridge. This is a company that might have, here's the internet service provider. There's an external firewall. This looks like this is a router. And then the internal firewall. Now, another illustration here is this right here. You got the internet, your firewall.
Hello?
This looks like a router. Hey, how you doing, Brother Johnson?
Sorry for being late.
No problem at all. This will be a shorter class, especially if Angelina calls in and stuff. A lot of people couldn't make it tonight, or they're either running late. So you got your internet, firewall, you got your home or your business. This looks to me to be, I would think, a router here. And then here, server, switch, got a workstation, Wi-Fi router, smartphone, laptop, iPhone. Each of these have IP addresses. Each of these have MAC addresses. We all should know what MAC addresses are. You got your modem and your firewall. Now, a lot of, like your Comcast and your Quest modems, a lot of them have firewalls and are Wi-Fi all in one. So you may have a firewall option, which people don't always use, but you have a Wi-Fi router / modem, and then it has its own firewall. And as you can see right here, you got a switch and a server. So here's Comcast or Quest. You have your modem. And, when you look at the internet, it's the cloud. It's just, like the internet ain't nothing you can hold in your hand. We're talking about something logical here. But the modem, the internet service provider, you need some internet service provider. So when Brother Floyd was asking that question, you do need a router, but what you could do is if you don't want somebody using certain protocols on the internet, using certain firewalls, using certain protocols, you could actually tell the firewall to block those. And I want to show you a picture right here that I took when I was using a freeconferencecall.com. The firewall asked me, did I want to block Free Conference Call, the software we're using right now. So with that being said, I wanted to let you guys know that I had downloaded a lightweight Linux distribution, and we might get to that tonight. If not, I don't worry about it. But basically Linux, I go through a few Linux commands at some point, but basically it's just an ISO file here, and I'm able to run VirtualBox. VirtualBox is a virtualization software, so I can install Ubuntu into VirtualBox, as I said before. But that takes more time. Faster with a solid state now that I have one. But that goes back into the cloud, and we might have some time to kind of get into that again, and so you can get your AWS account. I did put a video that I created in how to install Server 2016 per AWS. So let me see here. Hey, Angelina, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. So we got Sister Angelina on the phone. She took my class last time. So we got Kamisha on the phone, Angelina. We got Kevin, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, so you could talk about any questions they may have about CIDR notation and subnetting. And matter of fact, I will open up this subnetting. How was I supposed to do that? Just give me a second. This is something I posted before. Subnetting concepts. How do I download this? Okay, here we go. You know what? I don't have 365 on my computer because I blew away the OS. But Angelina, can I open this up in Google Drive?
Yeah, I think there's some compatibility there. Otherwise, I could upload it to Slack tonight.
Okay.
Actually, let me see if I could grab it from Slack really quick.
Yeah, it's on Slack, or I could email it either way.
Yeah. How can I share my screen though?
Well, what I could do here, I could do this. But before I do that, let me sign out of this free conference, because if you guys hear me echoing at all?
I don't.
You don't?
No.
I don't.
Well, maybe I won't worry about it. I can hear it on my end. So here's what I'll do. Could everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
What I'm going to do, Angelina, is I'm going to turn over. Let me see. I'll switch presenter with you. So I'll just go ahead and. So you should be able to share your screen.
I'm downloading it now.
Can you guys still see me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I believe I made Angelina the presenter. And then as soon as you download it. So, I mean, you guys, like anybody that wants to look on Slack, if you just type in subnetting and you look here, you'll see this subnetting concept, Excel energy or XLS sheet, and then also you see other keywords like right here. This is subnetting and why we use it. Another subnetting video, subnet reference table, CIDR notation. So when you type in subnetting, there's a lot of stuff that you could get off of Slack that me and other students posted to give you a greater understanding.
Well,
It's still downloading.
yeah, I'm just setting it up now.
Okay, cool. In the meantime, I'm going to put another AWS video on Slack for you guys. And everybody that didn't make it tonight, you can follow along as what we're doing here in terms of some of the videos and some of the articles and information that we're putting together.
Can you see my screen now?
No, I can. Oh, yeah, I can. Can everybody see it?
No. Only screen I can see is yours.
Okay. Let me see. Why this ain't working? Because I can see hers. Has somebody got a fan running?
No.
Okay. Okay, so Caesar just joined. For some reason, now I could see yours. Angelina,
is it a flower or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Could everybody see that?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it.
Is it like a flower in this, like in the background or something?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I see it. Yep.
Here, I'll make this bigger. How about now? Does it look better?
Yeah, that's cool.
I see a bunch of games just like everything.
Yeah, that's my start menu. Actually,
I'll turn this down a little bit.
let me open up Word. Or actually, I'll do this. This is better. And okay, everyone can see my screen now, or?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I work as a NOC technician, so basically kind of like a junior network engineer. I work at Atomic Data. They're a managed services IT company, so we do IT for companies that need IT. It's a lot more than just being like a NOC technician. And in a sense, just working with like a bigger ISP like Comcast or CenturyLink. So a big part of like what you'll see on the exam is just knowing about how to divide up a network. So CIDR, spelled like CIDR, is classless interdomain routing, and it was invented because the internet was starting to run out of IP addresses. So that gave us a way to have IPs get reused and not run out of them until things have moved over to IPv6 completely. So for me, I learned it best by like, you have a pie and we call this like a /24. And what that is means that you could have a total of 256 IP addresses. But now when you have like your cell phone, your computer, your fridge, all that stuff that can connect to the internet, you're going to run out a lot faster than, like even 10 years ago. So we've now since like divided that up to say in half, and now this is going to be 128. So then this would be a /25 and a /25 here. How all this even got started is like with binary. Binary is base of 2. So it's 2 to the 7th power essentially. So we all know like anything to the power of 0 is 1. One second here. And then 2 to the power of 1 is going to be 2. 2 to the power of 2 is going to be 4. Let's do it like this. 2 to the first. 2 squared. That's going to be 8. So now that's 2 to the third. Let's do 16. So I got to figure out how to erase. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second here.
Oh, no problem.
I think with the conference call thingy,
to make
now
it
everything can be drawn on here. So it's.
I didn't even know that. That's dope.
Yeah, I don't know how to get out of it though. What if I press escape? Preferences. There we go. Here we go.
Oh.
See that? Let's do that. Let me get rid of Task Manager. So pressing escape, then you can get rid of everything, or you can go back into like normal mode, and I'm just going to do it like this. Screen sketch, like that. You guys can still see everything just fine?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. All right, so I'll start over with my little grid here. So 2 to 0 is going to be 1. Power of 3. Power of 4. 5. 2 to the power of 7. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. All right, so this is the first part of understanding IP addressing when you're dealing with IPv4. Binary is important because all the data that crosses over the internet is in ones and zeros. So when it's going down, when it's going down the cabling, whether it's fiber or copper, if there's a 1, then it sends electrical current, and if there's not, then there's no current that's sent. With fiber, it'd be like light signals. If there's a 1, then a light signal is sent. If not, then no light signal is sent. So give me a number, someone.
Just any IP?
Yeah, just
8.
8. All right. So we're going to take the number 8 and we're going to translate that into binary form. So let's say 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. All right, so then you look at the number 128. You can't take 128 away from 8, so you get a 0 there. You can't take 64 away from 8, so you get a 0 there. Same for 32, 16, 8 goes into itself one time. It doesn't go in. You don't have anything left over. 0, 0. So 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0 is 8 in binary. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's try it with another number here.
Are you writing on the board or are you writing somewhere else?
Oh, I'm writing on my screen. I have a pen that I use.
I don't see anything.
You don't?
Yeah, I don't either.
Nope.
What about you, Derek?
Let me look. Yeah, I don't see anything either right now.
Oh, wow.
Is it a double screen? Because you had it. Okay? We did see something at one point.
Huh. All right. Well, give me a second here. Huh. What about now?
I see something.
Do you
It's
see
like a little
paint?
dot.
That's so
No.
weird.
No paint. It could be these janky free conference calls.
Let's see. Oh, I gotta.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
I'm here like
That happens
writing
to be
it
a
all
lot.
out. All right. You guys can see it now, though?
Yeah, I see Paint. Microsoft Paint.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you still see it?
Yeah.
The app.
Yeah, it's like now like a double screen kind of like Paint is in the background and the foreground. Do you see that or no?
No, we can see Paint.
Do you see this? Oh, nothing's even. Do you see this?
No, it's just a white. It's just a white Microsoft Paint.
All right. What about? Do you see that now?
Yeah, we see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeez, I'm sorry.
That was cool.
Let me try to get rid of all this. Okay. Let me see if I can make my pencil size a little bit bigger, though. Move this over in size, like that. Big blue. Okay, so I'll start over. So we have two to the power 0, 1, power 2. You guys can see all this now?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I can see that. Yep.
Oh. Six. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and 128. All right, so I'm taking the number 8, and then if we do 0 here, whoops. So 0, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and 128. All right, so you can't take anything away from, you can't take 128 away from 8, so you get a 0 here. Anywhere that these binary numbers, or these, let's say, exponential numbers, like if they can't be taken away from this number that you picked, then it gets a 0. 8 can be taken away from itself, so it gets a 1. So imagine this is like your cable. There's no signal or no current, no current, no current, no current, and then here is where it'll get its current, and then nothing for the next bits. So that's the binary part of it. This is how an IP address is translated into binary. Does that make sense?
It does to me.
Okay. Anyone else want to pick another number and we can go through it again?
About 5.
All right. Let's get rid of all this here. Size. All right, so taking the number 5 here. So starting from 128, it'd get a 0, a 0, a 0, a 0. From 128 down to 8. 4, it would get a 1 there. It would get a 0. Actually, let's see. So after you take 4, after you take 4 away from 5, you're going to have 1 left over. So then 2 would get a 0 there. And then you would get current there, or a bit there for the 1. And then that's the binary equivalent of 5. So 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. 1, 2, 4. Sorry, let's get rid of that. Let's forget about that. So 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. All right. I'm going to erase this stuff, and then we'll have an IP address that we can break down. Does anyone want to give one of those so that we can go through that?
Yeah, let's do 192.168.01.
All right. One 192.168.0.1. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this extra stuff here so I have more space.
Okay.
All right, let's go back here. So we have one, we'll start with the 192. So our largest number here is 128. We know that we could take that, we can subtract that from 192. That'd be 4, 6. So since we could take 128 away from 192, that gets a bit right there. We see that we are left with 64, so then we get a bit right there, or we get a 1 there. And then 0, because there's nothing left over for the rest of the octets.
So every octet would be every 3 numbers, or not necessarily 3 numbers, but the 192 dot. So 192, that's an octet, and then 168 dot, that's an octet, and then the other 2 octets are 0 dot and then 1.
Yeah.
So 4 octets.
Yeah.
Regardless of whatever they are.
Right. Yep. So an IP address has 4 octets, and then it's called an octet because there's 8 bits or 8 numbers from 128 down to 1. All right. So I'm going to try to write this a little bit smaller here.
Okay.
0, 0.
And this will be in chapters. If anybody hasn't got that far, I believe chapters 4 and 5, IPv4 and IPv6.
Yeah,
are correct.
I have to read 5 and 6.
Yeah, this is really going to be, between this and CIDR and the OSI layers, is going to be really the bread and butter of the test. And then the command prompt,
really?
chapter 14. Like this is the what I would call the matrix of. Somebody's playing some music in the background. Can they pause it? This is pretty much the foundation of networking.
Yeah.
You know, if you understand this very, very well, you could go on to be a network engineer.
Is that me playing music?
I don't know. I thought I heard something.
Yeah.
It's not me.
I'm checking my phone too. I don't think I'm playing any music, so. All right. Okay. Get the rest of the stuff out of here. But yeah, for me, on taking the exam, there was a lot of questions about the OSI model and what would happen at each layer as well. So I would recommend paying a lot of attention to that part as well. Just about like
paying a lot of, so what part?
It'll ask you a question like FTP and HTTP runs at like which layer of the OSI model.
Gotcha.
You know, questions like that, or like I think on the exam I might be mixing, this is relevant, but I might be mixing methodologies just because I'm studying for Cisco as well, but it'll say like there's a troubleshooting method called, it's basically like inside out, right? And you want to start at like the smallest, the most like, I would say like common sense. People don't like when you say common sense, but really everything in this field comes down to just like common sense. So I'll be on the phone with someone and they're like, well, my computer won't turn on. And you're like, well, you assume that they have it plugged in, right? But that could be the problem the whole time. Oh, I forgot to charge my laptop last night. That's why it's not turning on. Let me go grab the cord. Like, it's really that easy. So it'll pose a question like, so-and-so is having a problem with their display, you would start at what layer of the OSI model. It'd be like layer 1, it's a physical issue, right? You want to check like cables, you want to check power before you go and say, oh, well, let's go like reboot the whole network type of deal. So there's questions on there about that as far as troubleshooting and what layers you should start at. I always want to start at the physical layer. I'm trying to think. Knowing about like your DMZ versus, well, on the exam they called DMZ a perimeter network. They never called it a DMZ. I don't know if you guys have gotten that far in the book yet.
Yeah, I started to talk about it, and then I gave them one hell of a forum. Remember that forum that I showed everybody on Slack? And it started getting into layers and defense. Like, it went way deeper than the DMZ, but we have been talking about the DMZ, and I kind of used the North and South Korea analogy.
Right. So yeah, that's a good thing to pay attention to, like knowing the difference in a DMZ and an extranet and what their purposes are for. I got a lot of questions about that stuff too. I'll try to think some more before we're done tonight, and then just throw it out there. But
one was DORA as well with Server 2016. There was a couple questions on Server 2016 which we're using as a cloud VM in AWS.
Yeah. So DORA is the process for IP addressing with DHCP, which is the Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. And so you remember DORA as like discover and you also want to know like what direction. So there's the discover message that basically your device sends out to like communicate with the DHCP server, and then the DHCP server will offer. And then there's the request from the end device, and then there's the acknowledgement. So there's that 4-step process. It's easy to remember the process because of the acronym DORA, but it's more challenging to remember, you know, who does what at what layer or
so
at what process.
So basically, with the discover, I'm saying, okay, I see you as an IP address. I acknowledge you as, for instance, 192.168.0.1. That's the discovery part. And then the next part was, you said DORA, so D-O, what was the next one?
Request. So discover, offer, request, acknowledge.
Discover, offer, request, acknowledge. So I discovered the device is online, and I offer an IP address, and then I acknowledge that the IP address is there, and then what was the next?
Request and then acknowledge. So let's say your phone is like, I want to connect to the internet. So it sends like a message out there to say, hello, where's the DHCP server? Who is handing out the addresses? And then the DHCP server will say, oh, here I am, look over here. And then it's like here, from its pool of IPs, it's called a DHCP pool, it'll offer an IP address from whatever is left over. And then there's the request back from the end device, from like your phone, right? And then it's like, okay, I'm requesting this IP address from you. It's like, are you sure I can have this IP address? And then the server is like, I acknowledge that you're taking this. Like, yes, you can have it. So that's how that 4-way process works. But it starts with the end device to the DHCP server.
Well, another thing too, you guys, is, and I might show you kind of where it's at some point when I do because I got to reinstall Server 2016, or because once I took out my solid state You guys remember that PKI stuff I was talking about last week is saving your key for AWS?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
you know, my hard drive, I took it out. So I put it in a solid state hard drive. And, you know, I don't have that key anymore. I could still download a new key with no problem. But anyway, you could actually set an IP address to expire. Like you could set a scope. So the scope would be, let's say you have a scope of 50 IP addresses from the DHCP server. Think of it as like handing out phone numbers. Let's say somebody's, I don't know, let's say somebody just at a club or something, and then they just randomly just start handing out random phone numbers. Like they give somebody their phone number, then they give another person, you know, another phone number, but it's not the same number. It's just, let's say you get 50, I handed out 50 phone numbers tonight. And then it's like, all right, so I'm the DHCP server. It's like I'm issuing a ticket in a sense. That's kind of the concept. You guys got questions about CIDR notation and about DORA and any, you know, then now would be the time to break down, because she's looking at it from a network engineering level. You know, she's been really working heavy on networking.
Okay.
I don't. Go ahead, though.
All right, I had a question. Will any of this also tie to like CCNA by any chance, or just only network plus engineering only?
What was your question? Repeat it.
Will any of this also tie to CCNA, or just only just tied to network plus and network engineering only?
Okay, so I studied a little bit of both. I'm right now studying for my CCNA, and I would say that this exam mirrors a lot of what you'll see on the CCNA. As far as the Network Plus goes, that has a lot more to do with your protocols, just like general networking protocols, and then your cabling types. I think there's a lot bigger emphasis on that because the difference are the vendors. So Network Plus is from CompTIA, and the CCNA is from Cisco. So Cisco, they make routers and switches, and so they're kind of like, let's say they're like the first person to make the automobile. They're testing it out too, but they took it and they coined it, and now we can look at them as the professionals. Whereas like the Network Plus exam is like, it's more input from professionals no matter what brand to say this is the best way to do this process in networking. So you're going to want to know for the Network Plus exam, you're going to want to know like what types of Ethernet cables, how far they can run, at what speeds, and you're going to want to know about like your pairs, shielded, unshielded, twisted pair, straight through and crossover cabling, fiber types, the connectors that you need, the tools that you need to test cables. More of that stuff is the Network Plus exam. CCNA covers that a little bit, but it's more about like routing protocols and troubleshooting issues across the network.
One thing that I've been told about the Network Plus, like I told you guys about that brother that took my class last time. That was in the Navy. He used to work on submarines, and now he's a manager over there for IP video surveillance company out there in Chanhassen. And he likened this exam to the Network Plus a lot, as far as from a foundational standpoint. Initially, I didn't think so, but that's how he felt. The Network Plus is a lot more theory. The routing and switching with CCN and the CCNA, you're getting your hands dirty. Like you're literally working with the routers as far as iOS commands. And I think I showed you guys this a couple weeks back. I'm not sure. I thought I did, but I think I showed you guys a screenshot of what a router really looks like. Now, that's not really my cup of tea. I know kind of where to get you, but I don't really do a lot of routing and switching, as I said before. You know, and that's one reason why I brought Angelina on. She took my class before. She understands networking from a lot more of a microscopic level than I do, you know, because that was one, you know, she's worked in a knock center and all of that too. So this is a prime example of whenever I talked about SMEs, subject matter experts. When you get to the point where now you're breaking it down, then you're pretty much a subject matter expert in a way. You're an expert at the subject, you know, at hand. So you could explain to people, and so now what you're doing is you're training. So I noticed you also have Wireshark, and I told them a little bit about Wireshark before, how powerful it is and how deadly you could be if you learn it, if you understand the OSI layer down to a socket. And I was wondering, if you guys don't have any questions as of right now, can you do a quick little demonstration of Wireshark and how deep you could go into breaking down those protocols as far as a visualization level?
Sure. I'm not sure if this version on here is up to date. I don't use this computer a lot. Let's see. Wireshark.
Yeah, because I tried using Wireshark in my previous job at Best Buy. They would not let me use it.
Yeah, it's dangerous though, because you can see, you can actually see things in plain text or
passwords.
Yeah. Let's see.
By the way, just letting you know I'm just give you a heads up on your battery.
Oh yeah, thank you. Let me grab my cord.
I know I done been in some sticky situations where I didn't charge my battery and some things went all left.
Yeah.
Well, I worked at Best Buy, so they had a Wireshark there, and so they would not let me use it for some reason.
All right, so right now, kids are in the living room watching TV, and I think, let's see, let's do this. Let's config. All right. That's not right. Okay, so y'all can see my IP is 192.168.0.14.
Oh, I thought I just seen the command prompt.
Yeah, I had it up, and I went to check what my IP address was. So, 1 second here. I'm gonna stop that from running. So right now, this, I'm pretty sure I can make a safe. I want to make a safe bet and say that this destination IP, this 12.7.192.13, is the video conference right now. So my computer is talking to, you know, the server for freeconferencecall.com. I can also be more comfortable in that guess to say it's UDP protocol. So with UDP, it's like connectionless. You're just saying like it's called a best effort to say you're on the phone with someone and you're like, okay, I'm going in the elevator, I might lose you. And then it starts getting a little staticky because the signal has degraded. It's not, but the packets that are being sent back and forth are not going to stop and buffer to say, wait, you know, let's gather it all together. It's just going to keep sending and sending and sending, and then the person will say, hey, repeat yourself. So that's the difference in like TCP and UDP. A better example would say you drop a letter in the mail and you put the person's address on it. And you're like, well, you know, I trust the post office enough that it's going to get there, right? And then you can say, hey, I sent you a birthday card. Did you get my card? No, I didn't. Oh, man, are you serious? I sent it a week ago, right? So that's UDP. Now, TCP would be like, I have this package, and I want to make sure that it gets there, so I'm going to pay for it, make sure that it gets signed for. You're going to send a letter certified, right? So you send it, and then you get that acknowledgement that it's been received. So
like a tracking number.
Yeah, like a tracking number. So that's the difference with TCP and UDP. But right now, this is, if you see where the blue is highlighted here, this is all encrypted. But normally, you know, if we were running over HTTP, and which is port 80, and not HTTPS.
We don't see. Does anybody else see Wireshark?
Oh, let me go, and I think I got to go in the settings again. Like every time I bring something else up, I gotta.
Oh, you got to, okay, so that wasn't open before, so you got to like, and then, look, there's right there, it says automatically share new items. I think I'm going to start clicking on that.
Yeah, because before I had my desktop checked, that's how you saw command prompts.
Right.
All right, apply changes. Okay, so now you guys can see Wireshark?
I can see it.
Okay, all right, cool. Geez, I'm sorry, I should remember that. So I was talking about this packet right here on this line where my IP is 192.168.0.14 as the source, and then the destination is 12.7.192.13 with the UDP protocol. So down here where it's all highlighted in blue, you over a unencrypted connection, you will be able to see the information that's being sent. So that's why Best Buy probably doesn't want you running Wireshark. And can I ask, like, were you like Geek Squad, or how would you have the opportunity to run Wireshark?
No, I was called deployment specialist analyst or something like that, deployment operation analyst.
Okay.
Basically, we just overnight this up everything, and I basically like a lot of stuff with pinging routers and switches, making phone calls, tickets. So I have to do like a lot of those, and like pinging stuff like with cameras as well too, like using IP config and show power inline, things like that.
Sure. So all that stuff is dangerous because, like, let's say you're like, oh, I just want to see what's going on the camera. Well, when the camera is on the network, it's going to send its information, you know, like password, all that access across the network. So you would be able to analyze that and be like, oh yeah, I can now get on this person's camera and watch, you know, what it is that they're doing.
Okay. I thought also be able to get other cloakers to passwords to check computers as well too. Their logins. I was thinking.
Yeah. Yep. All of that you'd be able to see. Now, if I were able to get the encryption key, then all this stuff would make sense. I'd be able to know like what this stuff means.
Okay.
One thing I do remember, you guys, I don't know if I told y'all, but I took the Wireshark exam. I didn't do as bad as I thought I would do, but you know, they ask a lot of networking questions, and then but they ask for more functional features of Wireshark. You guys do know that Wireshark is free. It's one of them type of things where a lot of times when I used to ask a lot of system administrators, or when I was at that Citrix company, I asked them about Citrix. And I said, oh, what do you guys know about subnetting? And they said, man, we don't deal with no subnetting. Like most Citrix engineers and stuff like that, they kind of shied away from it. Like when I started talking about Wireshark and subnetting and CIDR and stuff, they didn't really want to talk about it. You know, I guess they just didn't like it. So I was kind of like, I used to think, well, you got to be a network engineer to be a Citrix engineer. It helps, but no, not at all. Server infrastructure, you want to know a lot about that, but there's a lot of sysadmins that shy away from subnetting and CIDR stuff, and they just generally don't like it because it's more work. But there's another thing I noticed up there you could do if you go to the statistics area, and you can actually break down graphs. If you could go into the protocol hierarchy there.
You see it?
Now, yep, I see it now. As you guys can see, what it's doing is it took some statistics. These are all the packets that were sent. You got bytes, you got bits. As you can see, you got Ethernet there. You got UDP, User Datagram Protocol. You got the transport layer security, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. You got ARP. Everybody knows what ARP is? ARP is basically where it's resolving the protocol based, I believe, on the MAC address. Am I incorrect?
No, that's correct.
That's correct? Okay, so you can find out how many MAC addresses are on, well, how do you do ARP? Is it ARP slash, do you do ARP and then in the command line, do you do ARP and then the IP address? Somebody could bring up a command line for me, thanks. Now this is probably going to be on the exam, you guys, so you might want to take heed to this. It's going to be just a troubleshooting tool in the command line on Chapter 14, ARP.
Okay, there we go.
So there's all your switches right there. Now, when you put in ARP space /A, then it will do what? Displays current ARP entries by interrogating the current protocol data. Now, if that's specified, the IP and physical address, you see that's what it looks like. Those are the MAC addresses. That's all on her network.
Yeah.
Now, some of these, you would think like, well, she has about 15 of those devices, but let's say she has VirtualBox or VMware. Let's say she has a virtualization software installed on that physical laptop or desktop. Let's just pretend that's the case. Well, a virtualization software, such as VirtualBox or VMware, it has its own MAC address. It's virtual, but it has its own MAC address. If anybody's ever watched Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio, if you have not, you need to watch that movie, and when you do, you'll understand why. But if you notice here, it mentions what type of IP address it is. Now, everyone should know the difference between a dynamic and a static IP at this point, but if you don't, dynamic means change. Static means the same. Most servers in corporate enterprise are going to have their own static IP. They don't want it to change because they want that IP address to be assigned to that specific server. You may have a printer or something. Sometimes they're given static IPs, but a lot of times, if they have a dynamic IP address, they'll just give it a DNS name, you know. So, but anyway, that's ARP. And then you can make any switch. ARP, so you got ARP-S.
Yep, that adds the static entry. Let's see what else does it say up here.
Now that stuff right there, you guys, that's on the test. These different switches, it may ask you, well, how do you do this? And those, all of that stuff on help is on the test.
Another thing that it shows are the multicast addresses. That what a multicast address, that's how you're discovered across the network. So if that were to be like exploited, I think that's how people can do a MAC address flood, but I'm not entirely sure about all of that. I haven't really dug into the security part of it, but there's a lot that hackers can do with a MAC address. They can spoof it. So then if a switch has learned, like with Cisco, you can say port security, setting up your ports to understand only this MAC address is allowed to be plugged into this port. So if another device is plugged into this port, I'm going to shut it down. So if you're able to copy someone's MAC address, then you can be on that network undetected and even allowed. So there's a lot of things people can do out there. Let's go back. Was there anything else you wanted to point out in Wireshark?
Can you show them some example of the OSI layer, what it kind of looks like?
Yeah. From you're talking from Wireshark. Yeah, I can.
If you drill down to some of those, it'll.
Oh, 1 second.
Caesar, can you hear me?
Starting a new one.
I've seen Caesar join, but I don't hear him. Okay, you're there. All right, so everybody can hear. We had another student that was going to join tonight. Hold on, let me see here. Let me look at this real quick.
Sure. Oh, you say that's happening.
There was supposed to be one more person that was supposed to join, but okay, how do I get out of here?
Hello?
Okay. Gabby?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm able to join now. I can hear.
Okay. So, yeah, we have a guest speaker tonight, Angelina. She's showing us the CIDR notation, IPv4, IPv6, OSI layers, and also Wireshark. This is she took my class last time, and she passed her exam, and she works in a NOC data center. So she's coming on to help explain some of these concepts. So, you go ahead, Angelina.
All right. So, looking at the protocol. Let me get this out the way here. We can see, I'm not sure if I have to play around with the time, but we can see that there's these DNS queries that were made. I'm trying to see DNS. That one I don't remember what layer that runs on. That would be presentation. So DNS and HTTP are going to run together on layer. DNS is going to be on layer 6, and then HTTP is going to be layer 7 because that's how we're seeing our web pages. But I think it's still running here. Yeah, here we go. Here, there's the TCP Three-Way Handshake.
Oh, okay. So there's the acknowledge right there. ACK for acknowledge, right?
Yeah, ACK. I don't see the send though.
Maybe you didn't capture
the order.
Okay.
Continue. Let's see.
TLS. And this is being captured off your wireless, huh?
Yeah, this is all off the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
All I'm seeing right now is just my my computer active on the network with this .14.
Okay. There's a fin. To some of you guys, this is something that's going to look kind of foreign, like reading a different language.
Yeah.
This is getting down to the nitty-gritty of the OSI layer. I mean, from I always said before, like a microscopic level. This ain't on the exam at all. But I implore you all that's watching this video to understand this is an extremely powerful piece of software. It's called a network sniffer. It's called Wireshark. It's a network protocol analyzer. If you learn how to use this very well, you could be extremely dangerous. Extremely dangerous. So I advise everyone to consider, checking out Wireshark, because it doesn't cost anything but your time. And once you get down to learning it, it'll be really good for your career. One thing
I use a lot at work is Whois, and now Whois, a lot of information that you could find on there has been why did that happen? Has been removed, because you could get a lot of information about someone's router or gateway that then you could go and exploit. But one thing I do a lot to figure out who manages an IP address is run a Whois lookup on. It's not going to work on a private IP, but a public one like this 12 dot. So we'll look that up. Let's see. What's it? 12.7 dot. 2. I should probably, let's see.
And Gabby, if you could hear me, I'll send you all the class docs and give you the Slack. The Slack. We use an application to communicate with everybody for jobs, articles, all of that. We use something called Slack. So I'll send you all of that once the class is over tonight, and then Bill will send you a book.
All right. Thank you so much.
No problem at all.
MX Toolbox. Let's try MX Toolbox. That one.
MX Toolbox?
Yeah, do you use that?
You know what? I've seen this a long time ago. I've been out of class so long, it's kind of like I haven't really been using a lot of that. You use Kali Linux? You know about that?
I know about it, but I don't use it, no.
Okay. I went to a when was that, back in, was that June or July? I went to a pen testing, a CompTIA pen test plus boot camp, which was about a week. Oh man. It was, I don't think I'm going to take the exam, but I thought it was something that just keep my little network chops up a little bit. But no, they had some pretty heavy, sophisticated stuff. And anybody that's interested kind of in cybersecurity, you got to know a little bit about networking from a foundational standpoint, because when you're thinking about cybersecurity, you're looking at stuff from the mind of a criminal. You got to kind of become a hacker to catch a hacker, right? So with that in mind, they like to see people with a little bit of desktop support experience or some networking experience, and then be, if you're good at using those tools, you're going to see that because there's 1.7 million unfilled cybersecurity jobs around the world, that you're going to start seeing more entry-level positions. I know with you, Gabby, I've seen with your resume, you did some look like some security auditing. So it's always good to have some, have a network cert down. It always helps. So what is this here?
This is the registrar for this IP address that I was seeing on Packet Tracer. I was just curious what this IP would translate to. I'm not sure if it can show me, though.
I see some phone numbers on there.
Yeah, you have phone numbers, you have email addresses, you have names. It shows who, AT&T, you got their address on there. I think this...
Then I see someone's physical name. Like, this is a lot of, for anybody that's looking at this is a lot of exploitation information. A good hacker might be able to take this and do some real danger.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, that's damn.
We might even have a class in the future, or like half a class, where we could all get on and just mess around with Wireshark. I mean, this right here is above and beyond this MTA exam for this course. But the reason why I threw this, I always wanted to talk about Wireshark, and the class to me is more about exposing everyone to hands-on applications and tools that you may have never seen before. You know, because the MTA exam is one thing, that's easy, that's 30 questions. But if you have exposure to stuff like AWS and Wireshark, just to know, give basic working knowledge when you go in front of people on these interviews, especially if you're coming from an entry-level standpoint, that helps. Did that help you at all, Kevin, when you were coming into the last class, with that first class you was with us, and we were doing all this stuff with Azure and all of that? Did that help you sell yourself when you were on an interview?
Yeah, it did. I mean, greatly. Yeah.
Okay, and you just had an interview recently, right?
Yeah, I just had an interview recently. Yeah, with U.S. Bank and stuff in downtown St. Paul.
Okay. How much in networking would you say was it make or break in terms of the role that they wanted you to do?
They weren't going to be using network that much, a little bit, just only for like just pretty much secure information with clients that are in the bank. But they were working a lot with tickets though, like a lot with tickets and basically securing information.
Okay, cool. I think that's all we need for Wireshark. Is there any questions you guys have in terms of subnetting, CIDR notation, OSI, DORA? We're talking about the heavy, hard-hitting questions that she'd be able to answer for you in this session. Link local addresses. Was that on the exam?
I think from a troubleshooting standpoint, or link local. Link local.
I think that's IPv6.
Yeah, link local is the IPv6 equivalent of APIPA for IPv4.
Oh, okay. See, I forgot. Okay, now that's another thing that we talked about before, you guys. APIPA 169. Whenever you see a 169, that's an auto configuration IP address. So let's say for some reason your device, your computer, your laptop, usually not a mobile device, but your computer with Windows 10 on it, it can't reach the DHCP server. It can't get an IP address. It'll assign itself its own IP address, which is APIPA. And it always starts with 169. If that's a test question, you're going to get this right. It always starts with 169 in regards to the concept of APIPA. That's later on in, I don't remember what chapter that is, but I think everybody should, for now, start reading the next 3 to 4 chapters.
Yeah.
Okay, what were you saying?
Yeah, so APIPA 169254, anything that shows that there's an issue with DHCP. There's an issue that the end device cannot communicate with the DHCP server. It could be most of the reasons I've seen like it work is that the DHCP server is either like down or there's an issue with DNS. Or there's a misconfiguration on a network device to say this router has its default gateway is going to be 192.168.0.1, but your device is looking for a 192.168.0.4 or something like that.
Okay. What's another? Is it okay? So we got link local, we got APIPA. I'm trying to think of anything else that I could really, any big time examples I could think that's on the test. I know Server 2016 they asked a couple questions about I think router roles, which I was actually surprised But when you go on the Microsoft website, it asks you, it kind of bases the exam kind of loosely off of if somebody was using Server 2016. But I think with 2016, I think they asked something about routers and maybe a server role or something.
Yeah. So I had a question about, it was kind of what I would consider like a simulation. Let me see if I could find like a good example of something really quick. It would say select what roles you would need to install on the server for your server to be used for routing.
Oh, I know.
I should have went on my other computer, but yeah, go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, oh yeah, and now I remember the topologies. I had hell with those. So if anybody has questions on network topologies,
I was just looking for an image of what it would look like, just to have like a good visual. So of course, like whenever you think of like adding a role to a server, people always go for like Active Directory, but see like right under here is remote access.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that you're going to want to look at on the exam. I had a question about like if you are trying to have users access the server remotely, like what would you need? You need to have a remote access role installed on there, remote desktop services enabled. Look at like network policies if you want to look at more like routing and things like that in the wizard. What helped was like some of them were not enabled, so like you wouldn't be able to click on it. Like Hyper-V, there's no reason why you'd look at Hyper-V on a question like that. I wouldn't imagine any Hyper-V questions being on that exam anyway, since it's more geared to networking. So knowing like you wouldn't look at any Active Directory stuff for an exam like this, because that has to do more with the server admin side of a network. But yes, there was a lot of questions about network topologies. Though the way I was able to understand it is memorizing the different types of topologies. You have your star, your bus, mesh, ring, and then there's like a hybrid mesh network. And so the most commonly used today are star topology and mesh. You're not going to hear of a bus. You're not going to hear of a ring. If you hear of a bus topology, think of like a hub, because those employed a lot of hubs for that type of topology. And also, like, logically speaking, when you know how a network works, like, I would say at home, I have a star topology, because there's one device that's like our exit to the internet. If I wanted to employ some redundancy, then you would start to look more towards like a hybrid mesh. But a star has one point to the network, and if that one is what they call a single point of failure, if you lose that, then the whole network is down. A mesh, that you're going to have redundancy, you're going to have multiple ways of accessing the network. You're going to have like a couple routers, or you're going to have, you know, a couple different like VLANs or something like that. It's more expensive. It's more a cost to implement and maintain.
But isn't that for ensuring availability?
Pardon me?
Is mesh for ensuring availability?
Yeah, so you would want mesh in like like at your job, you would want to have a mesh network so that, you know, like at my job, we have a secret server. It's a password manager. And the server that we log into every day to access our passwords is local, you know, but then if that one goes down, we have a backup in another data center that we can access, you know, through a web browser. And then, you know, I'm pretty sure it's some type of RAID configuration that is always like replicating to each other as changes are made. It's not a time delay or anything. But, you know, picture it like your house. Like, how are you going to access your house? If you have, you know, one set of keys and you lose it, is there someone that you can call that's right around the corner? Do you have a lockbox? Is there a neighbor? So that's more the employ of a mesh topology.
All right, thank you.
One thing I wanted to add, you mentioned a hub. Now, most of the time when you go into most companies, a hub is not something you'd want to have. They use switches. However, what I've been told, when it comes to hubs, thanks, appreciate it, Angelina.
Yeah,
when it comes to hubs, from a cybersecurity point, I think if you're running like Wireshark or if you're running something, if you could pick up an old hub, you could probably find it in a garbage somewhere, to be quite honest, but if you could pick up an old hub at like a thrift store for like $2, just get it. And go home and hook it up to your network just from an internal standpoint, the VM if you got to, and run Wireshark, you're going to see all types of nasty, unencrypted traffic. Because a hub is not intelligent. It's not like a switch. It's not thinking. It's not an intelligent network device. That's why they don't use them anymore. They got a lot of limitations. And there's a lot of collision domains. You're going to see that in the book. They might ask you a few questions about collision domains. Think of a hub as a raggedy old rural road that ain't got no traffic lights. You know what I mean? A switch is like, okay, you know, here's your air director. This guy, he's landing planes. You know, he has to be very strategic about how traffic goes to and from the network. Well, the bridge is kind of like, you know, it's almost like this is a four-way street. Or imagine a highway, but imagine you don't never have no brake lights, no exit signs, nothing. A bridge is kind of like that. Like, it's very limited. But if you could get a bridge, or not a bridge, I'm sorry. If you could get a hub, for real cheap, it's a good experimentation. Actually, a cybersecurity engineer that taught at my school told me that everybody should get a hub. I mean, just from a lab standpoint, you're just testing, so you can see the concept that he was talking about. But I wouldn't use it like you got stuff hooked up with Netflix and all this and all. No, it's just for lab purposes.
So, piggybacking on that, from the exam point of view, you're really going to want to know what the purpose of network devices are. And with switches, they replaced hubs because they break up the collision domain and they create broadcast domains. So let's say you have your router and then you have like 4 switches. Now when that router gets that packet, it's going to have to send out the broadcast to the 4 different switches. So switches create broadcast domains, but they break up collision domains. If your router has enough CPU processing power, it's not going to be a problem that it has to send out, you know, multiple broadcast messages for the switch to say, hey, that's over here, I'll take it. You would rather have broadcast domains versus collision domains because that's like people talking at the same time. You're not going to understand. You're not going to be able to hear. Everyone's going to have to repeat themselves. And if everyone chooses to repeat themselves at the same time, you're still not going to get it. So that's pretty much what a hub kind of fashions. And it's like, okay, start over again, and then it's not letting anyone else, talk when they need to. And then from the security point of view as well, they're not as secure as switches.
Okay. Also from a knock center standpoint, and from your point of view, working in this field, what would you say your advice is for guys coming in, guys or girls coming in, entry level, and also any recommendations you have in terms of dealing with the corporate world and the politics as such?
Yeah, so my best advice as far as like a lot of what happens at work, they say is like trial by fire, and I see so my job partnered with Summit Academy to offer IT training. So it's the 20-week program, and then I guess like there's 2 cohorts so far. The second one just started like 2-3 months ago. And more people had passed their A+ certification exam than I don't think in the first cohort. I don't think anyone got their certification exam. But when you're studying and you're learning this stuff, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I know what command prompt is, so it's going to come as like second nature, or I know what ping is, so that type of stuff is going to come second nature. So if you get an alert or someone's calling in like, hey, I was just able, when I was on Wi-Fi, I was able to get on the internet, and now that I've plugged up with my Ethernet cable, I'm not getting anything at all. And so you're going to be like, oh yeah, can you open your command prompt and tell me what your IP address is? They don't understand that type of stuff. So just really like getting down to the basics with people. Really understanding like remote tools and making sure that the office is okay, or the company is okay with you using remote tools, or seeing what remote tools they have so that you could just get on the computer yourself. I mean, obviously if someone doesn't have internet, then you wouldn't be able to remote in, but in those instances where they're like, hey, this isn't printing right, or hey, my mouse isn't working, or something like that. We have Kaseya at work, and I've also used GoToAssist, Makogo. Makogo is actually pretty cool. I use it like when my mom calls me, like, hey, I need help.
Yeah, let me take a look at that. And everybody should be paying mind to this stuff here. Alongside with TeamViewer, everybody should be working with partners, or use whatever tool you have. Because see, the reality is, you pass the exam, that's one thing. Getting in there and explaining to a manager is another. And if you're using all types of remote tools, and you could convey that, because what it is, you're a salesman. You're selling yourself when you're going in front of these folks. Why would I want to hire you? That's the question that you have to ask yourself before you go in there. Why would I hire you? Out of everybody in the world, why would I hire you? So if you know all of this different stuff and you can convey that, and you can give a star-studded interview, you're probably going to get an offer, in my opinion. Makogo.
Yeah, so
it's like a tough interview or so when someone asks you that and stuff, man. Because a lot of interviews I've been having lately, I haven't been asked that, and so you just, oh, you do this, and you know how to do that. Okay, all right, you got the job. I'm like, whoa, okay.
You get that too. Oh, so this is from the App Store.
Yeah.
Oh, it does Android and all that, just like TeamViewer.
Yep, you have to download the client, and then you give them the session ID. You give the other person the session ID, and then they just put in their name. I always say join and not join via browser, because if they were to close the browser, then that would end the session. But joining it would download a temp file, and then you'd be able to remote control their computer. So that was like a go-to tool for us. So here, Let's see. I think I have to log in. I don't remember my login. It's been a little bit, but
I think I'm gonna download it on my Kogo.
Yeah, this is a good one to use. I think it's pretty reliable against other ones that I've used that are, at work. Like they would use NTR. I'm gonna see if they even have it still up on the website. Let's see.
Video and voice conferencing. So it looks like to me that I'm able to do online meetings kind of like we're on here.
Yeah. With Makogo, I'm not sure if you're able to talk like this. But we used to have a support page on here. I think they might have taken it down, but the support page used NTR. And NTR was so buggy and it was laggy, and I hated it. So I don't think they have it up on there anymore. But it would have been cool to show you how it works. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna. Now, when they talk about, for anybody that's listening, the white glove service, 24/7, 365, going into those service level agreements. That comes later in other classes, but I might as well talk about it now. This is 24/7 support.
Yeah.
And you notice, if you could kind of go through and show them all them certifications that everybody has.
Yeah. Yep, we have, it's kind of out of order. Like CCNP cert is higher than the CCNA if they're doing it in a hierarchy like that. But,
right.
Yeah, people are certified in VMware, ShoreTel, Mitel. I don't think there's any Juniper techs yet, but a lot of the Microsoft guys, they're more the on-site engineers. And then the CCNA ones, or the Cisco ones, those are the networking people. We have some CCNA security, CCNA VoIP, I think, and then NetApp. NetApp is a data storage appliance that they use.
Now, do you use Nagios and SolarWinds yourself? Like, do you use that yourself?
Yeah, so Nagios is a plugin for OpsView. OpsView is like the monitoring. It was our main monitoring system from I started there. It monitors network devices and Linux servers, a couple Windows web servers, but we could see like ping graphs, CPU. We can see interfaces that go up or down. Xenos, but I don't really like Xenos too much. That's more for, I think network devices are monitored on there for a client of ours. SolarWinds, we have one client on there. Kaseya we use for servers, remote access, and remote access for desktops, workstations, pushing procedures, pushing software files. Rancid, we use Rancid. Rancid means really awesome new Cisco, really awesome new config differ or something like that. So Rancid is an acronym. And
now, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It holds network configs for network devices.
Now, with VMware, what is your interest in VMware? Are you able to touch that at all where you're at, or is it more from a monitoring standpoint?
I touch VMware, and they ask us to, so that's just another way for me to like remote into a server or reboot it or power it on. But I don't use VMware day to day. Systems engineers use VMware for the virtual servers and expanding their drives and stuff like that.
Now, where you're at right now, would you rather go into the VMware going into the VMware, or would you rather go into the networking and routing and switching at your company?
For me, I would go into networking because I'm just looking at like the on-call. Like for me, I'm really big on the work-life balance,
Right.
just having kids and stuff. And so network engineers don't get called half as often as systems engineers do. And then the amount of escalations that we have from the weekend and overnights are a lot less. From a monetary standpoint, though, I think that systems engineers make more than network engineers, but I'm not sure. I think from an industry, at my job, I think it's kind of uniform, but as far as like a monetary standpoint, systems engineers make a lot more money, and I think that there's more opportunity to work remote. Network engineers, you're going to be working like off hours and stuff to set up network, but once it's set and you've configured everything properly, you can kind of shift that
To the
be,
system.
and be remote as well.
Yeah, so
Ultimately,
go ahead.
Is this cost enough for you to do a support role?
What do you mean?
I mean, after finishing this class, would you be able to do like a support role?
Yeah, so I work in the Network Operations Center right now, and I think that getting this cert, for me at the point I'm at, because I've been at this company for 3 years now, so getting that cert just more solidified my knowledge. But it helps the job. It helps them see that I know what I'm doing.
Okay,
so
would that enable you to do a support role?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, getting this would make the difference, in my opinion, from NOC versus service desk.
So do you have an interest in support, Gabby?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
So at my job, like with service desk, you're going to be taking a lot more calls. You're going to be helping a lot of like end users, which is more, I guess, like more challenging because you have to talk your way through things. A lot of the times when I take calls with end users, I'm like not even looking at anything on the computer. You know, I'll be like doodling or something because it helps me think out the process in my head. There's nothing that you're really going to be able to like do from your point of view if they're completely down, you know, if there's no power or if they can't get on the internet. Or another one, people will call in and say, can you help me get email set up on my phone? So you can't really like, well, we're not allowed to have our phones on us, so you can't pull out your phone and like walk them through like, go click here, here, and here and enter this. So a lot of it is just, it comes from memorization and it comes from understanding the troubleshooting process, whereas like in the NOC, you're getting to touch a lot more and you're getting to see a lot more. Another thing at my job they say is like work until you don't have access. So let's see. See images. Let's see. Let's pick this one. Let's see Putty. Putty is what we use a lot for remote access. So if you guys see like this pound sign right here, this hashtag, that gives you enabled privileges. So you're able to like look at logs and run commands and things like that. So do as much as you can and investigate as much as you can until you don't have access. I don't believe Service Desk has access to look at like configurations on a router. You know, like right here, you're able to see like what executive commands, you know, are enabled, and you know, there's a lot of stuff that you could do
By the way, Putty is it off. Well, you could use Telnet, which is considered to be unsecured. That's on the exam, but SSH. So port 22.
22.
22.
Yeah,
port 22. So you guys might want to take note of that. Port 22 is SSH, secure shell. That is the secure version of the secure protocol for connections, especially when using Putty with routers and stuff. That's Putty you could use, like, even if you're using AWS, if you install an AWS cloud instance and you say, I just want to use a Linux distribution, 9 times out of 10 you're probably going to use Putty. You could use other things, but you could use Putty to access it, because RDP, it doesn't let you use RDP with Linux for some reason. You have to use a Putty shell.
Yeah, RDP isn't that Windows proprietary?
Yeah, 3389, port 3389, yep. Because with AWS, for some reason, it requires you to download Putty or, like another emulator.
Yeah.
For a Linux, as far as a Linux distribution, and then even a public key exchange is kind of weird. Just getting it to work is kind of a pain.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also Smarty, which I think you can have more than one console window open. Just to show you guys kind of what we're talking about here. Let's see. Secure CRT, they use a lot for the network engineers. Sorry, my computer is running slow. So this is what the Putty window looks like. For me, I'd type in the IP address and then make sure it's port 22. And then you log in, and then you can see, the name of the device that you're logged into. And then you're able to look at logs and do other configuration changes on there. Terraterm, I think a couple people use Telnet, but that's not secure
at all.
At all. Like everything in Telnet is plain text. So someone can just, run Wireshark and see, the username and password and stuff like that. I believe Telnet's port 21 or 23.
21, I believe, or 29. Well, let me see. I think maybe it's 23. Let me look.
There we go. 23.
23. It is 23, and that might be on the test, you guys. Possibly.
I'm pretty sure it'll be on there. A lot of port numbers are on the exam as well. FTP, SFTP, DNS, DHCP has 2 ports. Bless you.
Thank you.
Port 67 and port 68.
Then you got POP3, port 110, SMTP, port 25. And I sent everybody a port sheet, so my allergy is killing me. I got it.
Yeah.
But I'm having them real bad lately. So. But yeah, to answer your question, Gabby, if you're trying to get a support role, I think it's a good certification to have.
Okay. Derek, I think we need to talk.
Okay.
Because some of the languages I'm hearing and some of the terms I'm familiar with some of them.
Okay.
Like I said, I've actually tried to do the pen testing exam. Didn't pass it, and basically because of networking.
Oh, okay.
network has been the stumbling block to my aspirations. So and I'm going to it because of the security controls that I love to implement and compliance kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking at is this will, I'm sure, will give me some understanding, hearing it from you as a professional, because I studied it all by myself and just cramming.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, this is not much of a cramming class. It's more of a lot of hands-on software we use.
Yeah.
And I employ that with the Microsoft certification, which is why did I give everybody access to the Cisco Network Academy for Packet Tracer as well. And then I provide the port information. We'll send you the book, and then you can just catch up.
Okay.
But this will be a good addition from a foundation, because to be honest, I've been in the game well over 7 years, and I just got my networking exam, because the MTA is a fairly new and some of I would say even unheard of to some people, because a lot of people couldn't pass the MCSA.
Right.
So they said, all right, it's too heavy for most people, so they need a little bit more foundation. And the book that we use for this course is probably the best book I've ever read in my whole life in regards to IT.
Okay.
So that's why I said a lot about it in my book. I also wrote a book, and I covered a lot about the class. Let me see. I'll show you guys this. Can you guys see my screen now?
No.
Okay, probably because you're the presenter, but I won't worry about it. But anyway, the MTA, I always recommended people to get it because it's kind of an entry-level conceptual certification, but it is a Microsoft exam. It's a standard.
It doesn't expire, right?
Never. It never expires. It never expires, and that's what I like about it. It never expires. So it's only 30 questions. Cause see, we provide the voucher, we provide the training and the voucher.
Okay.
But when you go take the exam, you got to pay $40 to sit for the exam. That's through Bravura Training. It's a place you go to. You register to go take the exam, but we buy the voucher. We have retake vouchers, so if you fail once, you could go back. But we provide the voucher, we provide the training, and we also get people's resumes reviewed. We help people get placed. Whenever there's a position that I get a hold of, you'll see that I'm always sending out jobs.
Yeah.
Most people have got a job by dealing with me. There's no other program that does what we offer for the price that we do it. Not in the whole I don't even think in the whole tri-state. I don't even think in the Midwest offers what we do for what we do, because usually the program is a $1,500 program for 3 days, and they don't, they're not looking at your resume. They ain't doing nothing. It's just a boot camp. That's what Microsoft offers. But what I did is I took the program and I expanded it and said, all right, we're gonna do some Azure, Wireshark, AWS. We're gonna do some certification support. We're going to hook you up with some brothers that are at the Fortune 500 companies that hire and fire people all the time. They can look at your resumes. So there's no other program that does this that I've seen yet. So
what's in it for you?
What's in it for me?
Or for the organization, I guess.
Well, I would say, like, why I came on tonight is because with the summit class that started, there's a lot of black people there, and I want to see us stick around. There's been black people that have been hired there before, and then they're gone, like within the NOC, within the service desk. And there's on my team, because now I'm a NOC level 2, and then there's the shift lead, and he's black as well. And I really try to help us out, you know, to say, like, this is how you do this. Like, I'll help people with their ticket notes. I'll help people on calls. I'll, you know, offer them things to do. Whereas when I started, it was like a hoarding of, like, we call it like tribal knowledge. Like, people keep information to themselves. They keep information to themselves on, like, how to solve something or how to talk to this client or whatever. And I've gone through a lot of hazing there. I mean, maybe it's all in fun, but it's still like, damn, it happened, you know? So for me, it's like, yeah, so there's a lot of trial by fire. Like, we're gonna see what they know. There was one manager that used to work there, and he's like, yeah, my dad is like an architect. Like, his dad has been in IT for so long, and so he's like, whenever I'm stuck, I just call up my dad. Well, I don't have that. You know, it's like first generation in this field. You know, so what do I do? Googling doesn't help. You know, I've been on a lot of tough calls where like, why does it take you so long when so-and-so can do it in 5 minutes? You know, so then you feel that pressure. And then it's like, people might call back and say like, oh, they didn't help me out or something, you know. So you really want to have that support of people that really have your back. It's too much like the training was non-existent in my job. And then, yeah, there's a brother on, I work Sunday through Wednesday. Since this is a 24/7 shop, there's six shifts, Sunday through Wednesday, first, second, third, and then Wednesday through Saturday, first, second, third. And there's a guy on Wednesday through Saturday, first shift, and the lead just does not help him. Like, I watch, like, he just does not help him. And the people on my team, they all came from Summit. The people on my team, they're like answering calls. They feel comfortable asking me questions, and he just sits there like it's his first day, you know? And so I could see the track. Like, we're just not going to help him. He's going to sit over there and do whatever, and then he's going to be gone. You know, whether he gets fired or he finds somewhere else to go, there's not that, like, open invite to say, let me help you figure things out, you know?
And that's a habit, and I'm going to be very frank on this line here. So everybody that's not here that is missing the class, you can see the video I'm recording so I can upload it to YouTube. But what you have is, in a lot of these environments, you see a lot of black folks. You see non-white people too, but you see a lot of black folks to go into these environments where these environments are small, where we're the minority in the environment, where it's almost like a sundown town. And what it is you have racists. I'm just going to flat out say it. You have white supremacists that staying on code. They're staying on code. They're keeping the information to themselves. It's not. This isn't something like a handout we're talking about. We're not talking about someone is trying to get over. We're talking about brothers and sisters that's going into these environments and asking for the basic training that everyone else is receiving. And then we get in these environments, and you have a lot of these microaggressive attitudes. It's not because you did anything wrong. That's not why. What it is you have a group of people that's trying to keep the information out of your hands because they want to keep it within, you know, and people could deny it all they want, but the facts are the facts. And the thing is, here's the thing, you can't go into these environments half the time because, see, when I started off, I just figured, well, I'll be good. I'm not really going to have any problems at all because I'm technical. But it was more than that. The work is only 30 to 40%. You know, the work is only 30 to 40%, right? The rest of the work is politics. Do you kiss my behind? Did you show up here? Did you laugh at my joke? Maybe I said it like I had a guy. I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna be 100% honest. I had a guy that I worked with. I worked at a cigarette company for 2 years, and I worked directly next to a stone cold white supremacist. This dude was a heavy Trump supporter. He had all these white supremacist stuff on his lap. So now, mind you, I need to pass an exam. He's supposed to be helping me pass an exam. He says, well, Derek, you got to have this exam passed. Well, can you give me some IP addresses? Well, no, we don't have any more. So this other white guy took me out. He took me out for a burger. I said, hey, man, why ain't this guy want to give me no IP addresses? He says, man, Derek, we got so many IP addresses, it's crazy. He's trying to impede you. Now, I'll tell you this, they let him go. Because, you know why? Because he wasn't staying on code. See, that's what they have in a lot of these environments. They have these little secret societies where they can mistreat people of color, black folks in particular, and other non-white people. They can mistreat them. Then if you're at the job, if they do give a black person some play, they'll basically have you be a sambo. Basically, you have to be like a
jester.
A jester for the other black folks, and you don't want to get too black now. See, that's the thing. They don't want black people to get too close at the job, or they'll make it uncomfortable for you. So what I'm saying is, when I started seeing this type of stuff going on, and I can't go and say, well, I can't go to HR sometimes and be like, oh, well, there's some racist stuff going on. They're like, what racism? That's the first thing they do is denial and manipulation. They say, well, this isn't racism, you know, so you can't really prove it. That's why I tell people, don't make a lot of statements. Ask questions. What do you want me to do, sir? Oh, you want on writing, not verbal, on writing. Oh, well, can you meet me at my desk and let's have a conversation? Why don't you send me an email? Get it in writing at all times, because you'll get into these environments and your back is against the wall. It's not because you're doing anything wrong. Don't ever think that you may know 10 times as much as them. You're not doing anything wrong. What it is it's a withholding of information. And we're not talking about information that's not available. We're talking about not public, but we're talking about readily available information that everyone that's taking training should get the same, if not more. But they're saying, well, I'm not going to give it to you. So when I started to kind of learn how the system works, I decided to write a book. Before that, I started doing these classes. I've been doing them for 2 years. And your question was why I get out of it. Well, I contract for the Osiris organization. So as a disclaimer, all my opinions are my own. But I contract, and I met Bill because one of my buddies said, well, Derek, can you write a curriculum for some kids at Metro State? It was some kids to show black kids that there are IT techs that come out, and they wanted me to just write a little curriculum for the Imagine Academy. And I said, all right, cool. And then they were supposed to have an instructor. Well, they couldn't find one. And guess who became the instructor? Well, I just start showing up, telling them about VMware, VirtualBox, and just talking. Then the program ended, and he said, man, could you write me another curriculum? I want to get another class together. Well, once again, I became the person. I just passed my Microsoft MTA, the 98-366 exam. I passed it, okay? And he said, right, can you write a curriculum for me? So I wrote up a curriculum, and I started picking out all the software that I learned when I was going to Century College for my cybersecurity degree, right? So I just compiled up my own little thing, and we just started kind of just reaching out to black folks to help them get in the game. And so far, we've got over 40, 50 people hired. You see what I mean? So I give it to people straight. I mean, corporate America could be a rough environment for us. But, you know, that's why I always tell people, consider looking into Azure and look into AWS and Splunk. And start looking into a lot of this new software. It's a wave of the future. The cutting edge software, state of the art software such as Splunk, Azure, AWS. This A+ stuff, this hardware stuff is about to be out of the park in a little bit. They're not telling people that, but they want you to, go get the $300 A+. No, go if they want to pay for you, fine. But get AWS, get Azure experience as much as you can, because they're going to start charging people to learn this stuff. It's free now. You see?
Because a couple of months ago, I think was it April, I went to that Splunk Mini downtown Minneapolis, the little thing they had, and after they do like the introduction and stuff, everything, they were telling me so far a person, it was straight like the main guy was there doing the lecturing, and a couple people were like, yeah, like you want to try this stuff everything later, like it was in the future, we'd like to work with you and stuff, more guys like you and stuff, because we need we know our environment so far and our type of workspace so far to be more diverse, and we want guys like you so far to feel welcome in stuff in an environment like this and stuff as well. We encourage you to do stuff like that. I'm like, okay. I'm like, this is like both combination of white and like Asian, other type of guys telling me stuff and everything. I'm like, all right. I'm like, at first I'm not sure if I'm taking the grain of salt or I'm taking it seriously or not, but at the same time, like Splunk, AWS, Azure, I guess those are like three of the top things that Darius has mentioned so far that we really should all look into and stuff and start studying and stuff and get certifications on.
We did a presentation. We had Tech Systems, which was a recruiting firm, come out, and I did a presentation on Azure. You know, I didn't think much of it, but they said it was one of the best presentations that they did. We had jerk chicken and rice and stuff, and they came out there, man, and I told everybody, man, dress suited and booted, get sharp as a thumbtack and, you know, cold as a penguin. And people showed up with their resumes, and they made contacts. Some people got jobs, some people didn't. But what I did do is I tried to give everybody an alley-oop. You know, that's why I'm always sending a roll. You know, I send it to us first. You know, and when everyone else, let's keep it 100. When you go to these environments, when you go to corporate enterprise, don't you think that a lot of them, they help their people first?
Oh yeah, obviously.
You got people running in that don't know nothing. Right. They're just there. But they got in because, like Angelina said, well, my dad, your dad, or your dad knew somebody. They helped their people first. So that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years. When the roll comes in, the people that's in this class, I'm going send the roll to y'all first, even before my friends. Even, you know, I got homies in IT and stuff too, but I send people the roles in the class first. You know, so
and it's a lot of they won't tell you this, right? But it's a lot of who you know versus what you know, because there's a lot of people like I'm like, yeah, I would love to have a network engineering job, and I feel like, you know, I have to do so much to get there. And there's people that are network engineers that don't have their CCNA, don't have a college degree, don't have, you know, either one of them or a combination, or, you know, they're just graduated from college and they're offered a network engineering job and no experience. So you really want to have, you know, strong connections and people that will back you up off of their good reputation. And IT is very incestuous. Like, there's a lot of people that are familiar with my company now, and people that have left my company and gone on to other companies, you know. So a lot of people know people in the field.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed that in my experience, like, and depending, depending on how people view you is how because I mean, you can make it up the ladder up to a certain point, gets on your own merit. But like you said about who you know and who knows you, you know, if you put yourself out there, like they got a conference coming up. I told the class this last week, October 8th and 9th. It's called the Blacks in Technology Conference. It's one of the biggest IT professional conferences in the nation for us, for black folks. And it's inclusive to anybody of color. You know, you're going to go in there, you're going to see people that look like you, that's trying to help you. Huh?
Isn't that St. Thomas kind of program?
Is it what?
St. Thomas seems to have something like that for black folks.
Oh, St. Thomas? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The last one I went to and stuff was in St. Paul, downtown St. Paul.
Techwitty. They have it like every once a month or once every 2 months. You get, you know, Techwitty, where they basically say, you know, anybody that's in the tech to come and commune. You know, go down there and talk and they eat snacks and stuff. But this right here is different. Last time, Nipsey Hussle came and Karen Civil and, you know, I mean, anybody that was interested heavy in tech. It's called the Blacks in Tech. Now it's called BitCon. I missed it because I was working at a corporation, and I should have went down there. I should have took the I just started, but I took the time off. But it's October 8th through 9th, and it's like 3 whole days of nonstop events. They even got like a coding thing. Anybody wants to do some coding, you could pitch for a business. The time is now for black folks to get into IT, and also if you're into development, to really start thinking about carving out your own lane and doing for self. If you have a development mindset, there's a lot of, there was this kid the other day. He's only 9 or 10 years old. I seen him on CNN. He's from somewhere in West Africa. I can't remember where, but he's been writing his own apps. So it's wide open for this right here. As far as coding and the stock market is probably the most leveling playing field. Technology, technology and stock. There's some prejudice in it, but you can't nobody really stop you from investing in stock. Can't nobody stop you from creating an app. Now, if you're in an administrator role or support, somebody can play around with you then. But if you know how to code and develop your own code and your own application, no one can stop that. No one can shut that door. And but from a support standpoint, this role here, and I'll close out in about 5 minutes, but this role here, if you type in Blacks in Technology or BitCon 2019, okay, so if you go down, it's not that one, it's another website, that right there, yep. So, oh yeah, the BitCon Tech down there is a website.
Oh, I see it.
All of y'all should go if you can.
Okay.
I think the ticket's $100 or whatever. It'd be the best investment you had in your life, because, like I said, there's not a lot of stuff that's out there like this for us.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies is get suited and booted. You see all these sisters and brothers from major places. They from Google, and they from they from all around. Like this brother's from the software engineer at Google. These are the heavy hitters when it comes to the IT community for black folks. You see, so like I said, it's not a lot of stuff out there for us. But there's a lot of opportunity if you could get in the game. And some of these people are entrepreneurs. Not everybody's working for a corporation. If you could go and try to see what they offer as far as some of the workshops. I think they got some workshops and stuff.
So another question I have, right?
Yes, sir.
Is the content we have here, like you just spoken my mind. What I'm kind of what attracted me to the networking fundamentals is mostly the AWS. Like I told you, I had done pen testing before, but I didn't pass it. Splunk I have not done, but with this AWS, we are getting exposed here. Would that be enough to work in AWS and develop further, go from there?
So your question was, will AWS do what now?
The content we have in this program.
Yeah.
Would that be enough to? I'm looking to prepare for the exam. I'm a certification person. I love certification. To move on to doing AWS.
Well, AWS we just use as a lab to discuss and to confront the concepts based on this exam. I can show you how to use AWS in as far as installing instances and installing Server 2016. But when it comes down to actually heavy engineering, like a cloud architect, I'm not a cloud architect. I just got basic working knowledge of AWS and how to use it.
Okay.
But if the question is, well, will this class get you ready for an AWS cloud architect job? No way. You need years and years and years of experience. Before you get a cloud architect position, you're going to need a whole lot of experience.
But some of these exams too, you have to do like CCIE, the Cisco certified, like I don't know, some like enterprise cert. You have to have a certain amount of years in a job position before you can take the exam too.
Here's what I'll say too. Can you go? Excuse me, and I'll get ready to close out, but because I gotta get your class docs to you, Gabby. But can you go to? Can you type in AWS Solutions Architect? Associate. Yep.
For associate?
Yeah. This is what you guys should start thinking about in the future. So if you could click on it down under, no, you keep going down.
This one on Amazon?
Yep, that one. I heard that's the easiest AWS exam to get. That's what you want. That, I'm saying that's what you want to. Now, like I said, I don't know all of that stuff. I barely know anything in terms, but I'm saying that's the next. If you want something that's really going to always get you to keep a job, that's something that you want to know. I mean, that's a cert you want to consider. Now, if you go up here, if you go up a little bit, you see this multiple choice, multiple answer, and it's about designing solutions.
Put the link on Slack.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I got you.
It's about designing solutions. Not so much as an architect, but I mean, in a way. So you guys should check that out because I would be looking at something like that at the route that things are going. Because I'll tell you this. Before this planet is done, whenever that will be, if ever, IT will be the last industry to go. It's set up that way. You know, there's a lot of videos and another thing you guys want to consider going to, and I always tell people, is meetups. You need to download the Meetup app and start finding little work groups of people that have an interest in learning this stuff. Now, I haven't seen a Wireshark group, but I did see a Salesforce Saturday group. So those that are interested in Salesforce, that's another big thing that's very high paying, but it's not super, super technical. Okay. So the next steps is, like I say, everybody read the next 3 to 4 chapters. Gabby, I'm going to have Bill send your book, and I'm going to get off this line right now because I'm about to get myself prepared for bed. And I'm going to send you all the class documents so far. And then for you, Gabby, what we'll do, because you're kind of mid-level, I'm going to get your resume sent over to our directors so they can kind of comb through it and tell you what needs to be changed. And then I'm going to try to get you over to the recruiting firm that we work with.
Okay.
You know, and then you can kind of tell them what you're looking for.
All right.
Does that work?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. All right. So anybody got any questions?
No questions.
Okay, I'm gonna throw this on YouTube. I gotta get this thing going and work on these allergies. So y'all hit me up. Send me an email if you need help. I'll see you next week. 6:30 sharp Thursday night.
Thank you,
Hey,
sir.
remember, take some ginger and black seed oil, man, for that sickness. You'll be all right.
Yeah, I need to, man. It's all bad.
Yeah.
Thank you, Angelina.
No problem.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right, y'all take care.
Y'all have a good night.
Good night.
All right, night.